There was a point when, and correct me if I'm characterizing this wrong, but there was a point where there was a break with the church where it kinda came down to you either, as the pastor, are all in with the church or you're gonna do this secular music.
Right.
So there was a break. He lost his job. He
Yeah.
lost his church. He lost his
Yeah.
congregation. He lost the parsonage. He lost everything.
Yeah.
There was
A
pain
moment
there.
where things kind of all happened bad for us as a family at the same time. The record label that we were a part of, Columbia Records, dropped us as a band.
Mhm.
Our dad lost his job, and this all happened probably in the same 3-4 months. People at the church were petitioning to get our dad to leave or be fired, and these rumors were starting to kind of swirl that he maybe was taking money from the church. And more so, the biggest issue for them, I think, was the fact that he was putting his attention on his family over the church. And it really made this divide happen between us.
The thing to understand too is in a church setting, it's not as simple as just losing a job, which is already a horrible thing.
Right.
It's highly embarrassing, and when there's untrue scandal attached to it, I think it adds another layer of complications and
Right.
relationships. Pastor and his wife and family really minister to the church, and that means everything from taking the phone call at 4 a.m. to show up and be there after a terrible thing's happened. It's bedside manner, but all the time, and showing that love and care. So to have some of these people then turn their back was really painful for our parents and for us.
And for us, because we had like friends, that was our friends growing up.
Right.
Right.
We spent more time at the church than school when we were growing up. So once we all left, so did our childhood friends with that. So
It was a
trying to
complete
understand
restart.
that in a world where we were young is very
And
complicated.
as you mentioned, the parsonage is the home that the church owns. So we lived in that house, and we moved into a home that one of the members of a church, who was still a good friend of ours, let us live in a house that they own for very little rent. But that was a challenging moment because there was about 7 of us, the 6 in our family and our uncle, living in a 2-bedroom home, kind of all on top of each other and working through some of this pain of a church. And at that point is when we started writing music for what would become our first successful album. And I think it was out of that struggle that really opened up that lane.
As kids, were you fully aware of what was happening at the time? Were you fully aware that there was a break happening with the
Yeah.
church, that they were turning?
Yeah, I think they.
I was for sure because
You were older.
I was older, and I had friends, even in the high school that I was attending at the time that attended our church, and they'd be like, "So I heard this and I heard that, and are you guys leaving?" And it was always like we have to be careful at the time about MySpace, right? I remember one of the big things, which was really funny. My father was almost getting in trouble for the fact that we had a social media page, right, where these people could comment and girls could say whatever they want, and that was a problem. And he said to the board and other people, like, every church in America will have social media within the next 2 to 3 years. Never gonna happen. So obviously that's not the case. But the reality of the fact is I saw it firsthand. I saw a lot of the pain for my mom and dad in that.
Did you guys know it as well?
Yeah, I was also going through a pretty intense thing at that time. I'd just been newly diagnosed with type 1 diabetes
Right.
and was working through all that. So I think it's weird to say this, but it was a bit of a godsend. This terribly traumatic thing happens to our family. At the same time, I'm relearning how to do simple things like eat and manage a new disease. So I was a bit distracted, but I recall nights where there was a lot of tension within the family and fighting, and moments that I think I could hear my father crying and knowing what it was doing to him. And he put so much of his heart into this and into these people.
And he was so good.
It was really good.
As a speaker, he was so good.
Speaker and a singer. He's
Yeah.
amazing on the stage and really brought it. So yeah, it was painful. But I think, the thing that was interesting was we all needed to get some clarity on what faith and religion and all of that meant to us after this had happened. And I think, it really defined who we became as faith-based people or not, and what our value system was.